Hey everybody, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are in the world. I'm going to be here doing a week prep here for the crypto market. A lot of times I kind of do this on my own, and I figured that it probably would be useful to take a look at the market, especially with the events that happened throughout the week. And so this video is going to talk about dominance. This video is going to talk about leverage positions. This video is also going to talk about futures and how that may affect what happens in the market. So, of course, with all of this, this isn't financial advice. As you can see on your screen right now, I'm not your financial advisor. I'm here just to give my opinion on the market, and you're responsible for your own trades, managing your own risk, and doing your own research. That having put out of the way here, let's take a look. I have a chart here that I put together. And basically what this is, it's a way to take a look at, at basically leverage positions and, basically looking at Bitfinex. I did a video last week talking a little bit about this. And what I want to focus on here is the uptick in the amount of longs that have been opened. And so one thing I want to point out is, obviously we can see right here, we've marked this off, and I'll go ahead and kind of zoom in on this, basically in the entire corrective cycle from where we had our top up here. Moving our way down, on this entire corrective cycle, the longs have basically stayed pretty flat. I would say that we kind of bottomed out here at about 19,000, 20,000. And then we topped off around here, around 28,000. And really 28,000 was the high. We almost hit 28,000 again right here when the price was up here, long positions. That's when we had our big move on October 25th, up to 10,800. And, it's kind of been moving sideways, but, we've had a major correction here. The longs, just for the record, really haven't closed a whole lot. We bottomed out here at about 24,000 from the high at 27 or 28,000. And it looks like a lot of these long positions opened, when Bitcoin was at about 9,000 to about 9,300. Now, keeping in mind that this is the chart based on Bitfinex, and that leverage was very low for a long, long time, and they just recently raised that limit. So it used to be on like a 3.3x leverage max, and they've recently increased that. Mostly to capitalize on, liquidations and things, just like what BitMEX and Binance have started to do as well. It seems to be a good way for exchanges to make money. So just keep that in mind as well. Using high leverage, you're really giving that money back to the exchange. Now, with this price moving down and the longs really just staying the same, shorts really haven't moved very much as well. So they were at about 3,900. Shorts have, ticked up to, about 8,000. So really, in all actuality, if we zoom out on this, with shorts being right down here, again, at about, we'll just say 3,000, 3,800, and then from them increasing all the way up to about 8,000, we've got basically almost double the amount of shorts that have been opening on this entire move down. So I would say that at this point, it's shorts that have opened that have caused this to go down, as well as spot positions as well. But now what's happening here, we are consolidating inside of this range, and so we have to recognize this. We have to recognize the low here, and we're talking about really closures, right? So with the closure at about 6,900 and a closure up here at about 77.25. We've been closing in this range, but longs have been increasing, really at an alarming rate. And a lot of people are talking about this. So, it started out at about 25,000, and now we're up here, really at an all-time high, which, again, you have to take that with a grain of salt. We're right up here at about 41,700, and I do believe that it did spike above 42,000 there for just a little bit. But also keeping in mind, people on Bitfinex are able to leverage their money more times than they have been in the past. So, so just keep that in mind. But this definitely does appear to be I wouldn't say accumulation, because if this was accumulation, then I think we would see more on the terms of shorts as well. But when the price is moving sideways and long positions are moving up, generally that is these leveraged long positions that are trying to basically fix their positions, which they had been longing on this move down. If you're in a long position that's been underwater from anywhere up here in this range, and then it comes down here and then it looks like we're about to pivot to the upside, that generally psychologically is a good place for you to to basically dollar cost average down. Um, but really, if you're upside down on a trade from up here, you haven't been managing your risk appropriately. You should have stop lossed a long time ago, and then down here re-enter, right? So it's never good to keep a long position open that's underwater, or a short position on the flip side if we're in a bull market. It's never a good idea to keep that position open and just hoping that it's going to come back up to your entry. But now people are down here, and you can see it very clearly. The price is moving sideways. There's a decent range here, but price is moving sideways and leveraged longs are moving up, and that, generally speaking, is not good. It's not good for this to be happening. What we need to see is what happened back when Bitcoin was down here at about 3,100. What we saw was, we had a spike in longs, and then they closed off, and then the shorts were, way down here. They were at an all-time high themselves down at the bottom. And right now we've got longs at an all-time high. So what does that tell you? So when shorts were at an all-time high, the price went up. Now longs are at an all-time high. That's extremely bearish. Now that does not mean that we are not going to go up. But when shorts, again, I'm going to say this one more time just so that it clicks. When shorts were at an all-time high, the price went up in a big, big way. Now longs are at an all-time high, and keeping in mind, longs are at an all-time high, but is not when Bitcoin was at an all-time high, right? Or not even really an all-time high. It's not when Bitcoin was at the high, right? Shorts were pretty high. Shorts closed off, right? I mean, you could figure that people were opening up short positions here in this range. You can see they were ramping up as the price was just continuing to go up. And then eventually all of these shorts decided to go ahead and squeeze out of their positions, and then the price went down. Okay, but now the price is moving sideways. Longs are going up. Shorts are, they're just kind of hanging out there. Shorts are hanging out. They're really not very high. So this sentiment is extremely bullish. The sentiment is extremely bullish, and you have all of these positions that are just trying desperately to dollar cost average down and get a better average entry price, so that when the price goes up, they have a better position. But historically speaking, psychologically speaking, this does mean that the price is more than likely going to come down, and with the amount of leveraged long positions, it'll likely come down in a big, big way. And I hate to say that, but I keep talking about this 5,800 mark. I keep talking about that, but I'm not going to blindly set buy orders down there. I need to wait and see if there is a reaction there, because fact of the matter is here, if this thing does break down through 7,000 or 6,500, these longs are likely going to either liquidate if they are now over leveraged, or they're going to hit their stop losses, which is going to start a domino effect. And that's going to have significant effects on the price of Bitcoin. So that's my thoughts on leverage. Again, shorts super low, longs extremely high. Sentiment is extremely bullish, and that is not good. Everybody and their mother is talking about, oh, longs are extremely high. So then you've got one camp that says, well, since longs are super high, that they must know what they're doing, and so the price is going to go up. But as we've seen down here, and again, just because something happens in the past doesn't mean that it's going to happen today. When longs were at their all-time high, when shorts were at their all-time high, the price went up. The price eventually went up. Shorts were closing and closing and closing and closing, and then boom, the price went up. And then you could see here, we had a lot of longs that closed right here because the sentiment was, all right, well, we're still in a bear market, so I'm going to go ahead and close off these positions here. I mean, imagine if these longs had stayed open. They closed their positions. We had another move up, closed more positions, so this just kept going down. This is about where our low was. So you could say that there were tons and tons and tons of longs that opened up in this range, but of course with the majority of them right here. And rightfully so. To be fair, this cluster right here lines up with these clusters over here. So naturally speaking, this does seem like a good place where there would be support. But if there's not, then this price is going to collapse, and it probably will come back down here to 5,500 to 5,800 like I've been talking about. But again, I'm not going to blindly set any bids there. I'm going to wait and see what happens. Okay, so let's take a look at futures. So I'm going to take a look at CME. and I'm going to take a look at this. I'm on a weekly chart. I'm going to move down to a daily chart because I'm very interested in how this is starting to open. So we do have a gap. We do have a little bit of a gap here. We have a gap between where this opened, which was at 71.20. The high was at 71.20. So this literally has been going down since CME opened. We closed this mark at 72.65. So we closed up here and then we moved down to where it opened. So it was about 2% drop. Now, this doesn't mean that we are going to immediately pop up here, but I do think that it is very likely that we are going to be creating a bit of a bottom. And more than likely, this is probably going to come down in the next day or two to about, about 69.75 to 7,000. But again, taking a look at this from the bottom to the top, let's just see if there's things that fall in line here. So we've got the 618 at 70.25. And this is again on CME futures, the 618 at 70.25. We have the 705, which again, we talk about this, the 705 at 6,900 right on the nose. Now, again, for this to fall in line with, with this trend line, we're talking about 6,900 not really hitting until the 19th, which is 4 days from now. But it doesn't mean that we can't wick down here. We've seen plenty of wicks below this green line. We've actually seen closures down here, of course. But if we're going to pop up, which I do think we probably will come and close this gap, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to happen today. It doesn't mean it's going to happen tomorrow. It doesn't mean it's going to happen this week or this month. It could happen next year for all we know. But I do think that there is potential for upside at least to 7,200, maybe even 7,265 again on the CME futures. And as you can see over here on the right, CME futures are at 7,090 and Bitcoin perpetual is at 7,070. So there's about a $20 difference here, still with a bullish sentiment. Now, we can talk a little bit about backwardation in the market if you'd like. Basically, right now, perpetual is at about 7,070. So that means spot price generally is at $7,070. Futures, which is what CME is, CME, it goes off of futures. If you're looking at the XBT Z19 chart, that is a future contract. CME runs on futures contracts. So the price is not going to be the same as spot price. It's not going to be the same as Coinbase. If the price is higher, generally speaking, that is a bullish sentiment. And if the price is below, that is generally a bearish sentiment. So right now, even on CME futures, there is a bit of a bullish sentiment. And if there's any backwardation, which means that it flips from positive, so above your perpetual or your spot prices to below, so you have a little bit of a reversal and a divergence, then that would flip to a more of a bearish sentiment. So right now there is a bullish sentiment, which that kind of tends to the idea that things are probably going to move up, but that could be short-lived. That could be extremely short-lived. So right now, still looking at 6,900 to 7,000, somewhere in this range is probably where we're going to get a little bit of a bounce. I'm probably going to start getting some absorption here. On the CMA futures, we haven't closed below 7,000. Actually, as far as a closure goes, we haven't closed below 71.25-ish. On CME futures. We have traded below there on a daily, but what you can see here, we had a huge gap on the open, back here, and let me move this out of the way. And so that was on November 25th. We had a pretty big gap. It closed pretty fast. So this gap did close very fast. We had another gap right here where we closed all the way up to 7,800, and then the next day opened at that would be at about 74.65, and we closed this gap basically on that day. But 2 days later is when we had the big push up to 79.73, almost 8,000. Didn't quite get there, at least on the CME futures, and we've been kind of moving down ever since. But I would expect there to be another push down to about 6,900, and then we're going to probably see a little bit of upside. Just taking a look here at these moving averages. So we're on the daily chart. So let's just take a look at this on the daily. We've got the 21 exponential, which we got rejection up here back on the December 4th. We got rejection at the 21 exponential on the daily. And if we get back up here, we're looking at about another move up to about 75.60, 7,600, which, take about $20 off of that and you're going to get your spot price based on how the prices are right now. But right now, perpetual is at 7,075, while CME futures, while it's delayed, is showing about 7,080. So likely that's going to be popping up just a little bit here, based on the delayed quotes that we're getting here on TradingView. So those are my thoughts there. But now let's take a look at dominance. Dominance, this is an interesting one. I'm going to move all the way out to a weekly chart, and I'm going to close this all out so that we get a good view of this, because I've been kind of mapping this out on a time basis. Basically what I've got here, let me move out of a let's see here, out of a log scale. Actually, the log scale is probably what I do want. Let me zoom back out here. Basically, what I've got is a move from here, which is kind of like our beginning when we first started tracking dominance, to a major pivot on the to the upside, and then we're going to take a look at the major pivot to the downside. So basically, what we're doing is we're capturing the time span from this point down to this point. Okay, so this is what we are tracking as far as time goes. We're talking about 798 days because we're on a weekly chart. On a weekly chart, so 114 weeks from this point up here, which was all the way back in 2015, all the way over here to where we had the end of our bull market, which was on January of 2018. Okay, so that's when Bitcoin hit 20,000. All right, so now let's just take a look. And what we've got here, again, we are measuring the time. We're measuring the time from basically that the Bitcoin's bottom, which was at November 2nd-ish of 2015, to the top here when we hit 20,000 in December or January of 2018. And then if we take a look at this here, we have a nice wave up, like a nice impulse up where Bitcoin dominance is increasing. Keeping in mind that Bitcoin's price was actually going down during this time, but altcoins were just being decimated. We had basically our altcoin crash, and then we had a relief rally, altcoin crash, and this goes all the way back to 2018, September 2018. And you remember, Bitcoin was bouncing off of 6,000 throughout this entire time. And then we had basically when Bitcoin had its crash, but take a look what happened. Nothing really happened to Bitcoin during this time. Bitcoin was just kind of hanging out there. But again, taking a look from a support and resistance standpoint, which is something, again, we talk about this all the time, we've got a clear area right here where we're going to run into support and resistance. So we had support over here, then it was resistance when we had our relief rally on alts, and then of course we broke through that. And this is about the time where Bitcoin was just kind of moving sideways, nothing was really happening, and then we broke down. So this goes, October 22nd, just shortly thereafter, Bitcoin broke down, and then we had our crash. And then eventually Bitcoin got to the point where it was creating a bottom that was right around right here, where we were getting support here at the 55 exponential. We did kind of move down below that, and this goes all the way to April 1st. And this right here, this is when Bitcoin just completely took over. Bitcoin just completely took over, and it started moving back up. And just taking a look at this from a time perspective, this is a 1-to-1 time frame. Again, going all the way back over here to where we got to this area right here. Let's just take a look and see, what our time frame is from that, because that should be about the same period of time, 434 days. So that is a 1-to-1 from that. So we're projecting that time frame. So we have 434 days that we've got. So 62 weeks, 434 days from that. And then let's take a look and see where we're at from now to that. So we likely could be going all the way through May 25th, 2020 before we see this bull market return. Plenty of time for this to play out, just by the way. So again, Bitcoin top at 20,000 to Bitcoin bottom. Actually the bottom again was right back here, but before we saw our major explosion to the upside was that 1-to-1. And now to get another 1-to-1 for as far as the time frame goes, likely something is about to happen here. On the weekly chart, we are sitting, right below this 200 simple moving average. We're sitting right above the 21 exponential moving average. We are compressing, and we are about ready to enter a huge expansionary phase. This expansionary phase is going to be tremendous, and it does look like this does want to move down. This looks like it wants to move down, to the tune of about 64% dominance. I'm going to move back out to a 12-hour chart, and just to kind of take a look and see what I think that I see going on here. Basically what I can see is we've got a nice impulse down. So from up here, we've got a nice impulse down. we had our dominance go up. This again was when Bitcoin went all the way up to 10,800. And then what we're seeing is we're seeing another correction here. So a 1, a 2, or an A and a B, and then we're going to see this move down. Could come only down to about 66%, but I do think that we have potential for this to come down even more. And it really just depends on what happens in this range, because we are below some critical ranges as far as support goes, and where we're currently trading below that. We're trading actually on the 12-hour time frame. We're trading below all major moving averages. We're trading below the 55, the 21. We can see that TradingView is trying to make some calculations here right now. But nonetheless, we're trading below all of these moving averages, which, if we go to a daily, let's see what the daily looks like. If it looks anything similar to that, of course, the 200 symbol is going to look different. But we are, again, trading below the 21, the 55, and we're just kind of flirting with the 100 right now. It does look like on the daily we did get a rejection of that 21 today already, which we're only 49 minutes into the new week here, but we are already getting a little bit of a rejection there. So I do think that Bitcoin dominance will go down. Now, does that mean that Bitcoin's price is going to go down? No, that's not what that means. Bitcoin dominance is much more complicated than that. Dominance just means in the entire crypto atmosphere, what percentage market cap is associated with Bitcoin. And in this case, we're sitting here at what 68.2% of the entire crypto atmosphere is in Bitcoin. And so if Bitcoin dominance goes down and Bitcoin stays where it's at, well, that lends a hand to Bitcoin dominance going down, Bitcoin's price staying the same, and alts finally getting a move to the upside. I'm not going to speculate on which alts might have some upside potential. That's not the purpose of this video. Really, what I wanted to do is just kind of take a real good look, a good overview at this. On the daily, it does look like that, things do want to move to the upside. So if we can close today above 68 and a quarter, especially if we can close today above 68.5. If we can close today above that, I think that Bitcoin's prices are going to go up. I don't think the alts are going to be affected as much, because I think alts have already kind of bottomed. Most alts have kind of bottomed down here. So if this does move to the upside, then I do think there is upside potential for Bitcoin versus the US dollar. I don't necessarily think that alts are going to just completely suffer. I do think that they will a little bit. But nonetheless, we're not talking about 50-60% drops in alts, unless you're in something that's already pumped 300% Matic. But I do think that if this does happen to close above 68.5, then I do think Bitcoin's price is going to be in for more upside. But again, if we continue trading below this 100 exponential on the daily, the 21 and the 55, which we are already trading under, likely we're going to come all the way back down to 67.5 to retest this 200 simple moving average, which, just for the record, we haven't been here since April 22nd. That's what I've got for you today, folks. Wherever you're in the world, hopefully you're having a good day, a good night, good evening. And if this video helped you in any way, shape, or form, I'd appreciate a like. Shoot me a comment here, and subscribe, share, and all that good stuff. And again, I will talk to you all in Discord, and have a good day.